Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Starr, and this is my channel Not Bad, and I am extremely excited because today I am talking to Bart Nagel about probably one of the most iconic guitars I can think of, which is Frank Zappa's Baby Snakes SG guitar. You may know it from the cover of this book, and of course the film Baby Snakes. I wanted to start by saying that this is really wild to me because I don't know, probably 15, 20 years ago, I would be on guitar forums and people would be talking about this guitar, trying to learn anything about it. And you were like this mysterious, elusive figure that no one knew about. And here we are today. I'm actually talking to you. So this is sort of like blowing my mind. Um, can you give us a little brief intro to who you are and the story of how you came about making this guitar?
Well, first, I want to apologize for not having a better PR agent when I was in my 20s to get the word out. Guitar sale that I made, and then it just kind of went into ether. And I could
Yeah.
tell people from time to time, I made this guitar for Frank Zappa, and that's great. But I didn't realize along that path that the guitar had achieved this kind of fame on its own, and
Sure.
that it became known as Baby Snakes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, this is all fairly new to me, like the attention surrounding this guitar and the little this Zappa fan base who wants Dweezil to have it versus,
Right, right. And it's
going
going
up for
for
auction.
sale, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know, this guitar is going for auction December 5th. Heritage Auctions is running that auction. Ahmet Zappa has the guitar. He's the one who's putting it up for auction. A lot of fans say no, he should give it to his brother, and a lot of people say no, it's his to do with what he wants, and it is his to do with what he wants. So we'll see how that auction plays out and whatnot. I'm sure people are aware that there's some drama and family strife, which we won't really get into here, because I want to talk to you about who you are. So, how did this like, what made you decide to get into building guitars? Was this a something that you had planned for, or how did this journey begin for you?
So it started, I was in high school and I made a new friend in my sophomore year who was a year younger than me, but he was just, I don't remember how we first hit it off, but he was like this amazing guitar player. Even at that age, he was already like well ahead of anyone else I knew. And he had saved up some money and he bought a white Gibson SG Standard,
Hmm.
the two pickup model. It was maybe a 60s model. So this was the early 70s that we're talking about now. So when I saw the guitar, I said, "Oh, this is great. Like, how much did you pay for it?" And he told me the number. Don't remember what it was. And I said, "Oh man, I could have made it for half that amount." And we laughed and then we went on our way. But a week later or so, he came back with a want ad from the classified ad from the newspaper that said, "Make your own guitar and a phone number." And he just kind of said, "Do it.
Yeah.
Make a guitar for half that price." And so I called up this number. This guy invited me to his shop. He was in downtown Phoenix. Um, and he had like this little garage attached to his house that was just filled with woodworking equipment.
Mm.
His name was John Roberts. And I said, "I'd like to make an electric guitar." And he said, "Well, we don't make those here, but you can use the shop, just pay for the wood, and we'll help you where we can."
Mm.
So I made my first guitar, which was basically a single cutaway SG. So I copied my friend's guitar, the
Yeah, yeah.
measurements and all of that. So my affinity is for SGs from an early age. So
Now,
I made that.
well, hold on. Do you play guitar?
I'm crappy. You
Okay.
know, my friend taught me all the Beatles songs I still know. There's
Yeah,
about
yeah.
8 or 10, and I should practice more. But
Well, I
and,
think we all should. I should practice way more. I have way more guitars than hours probably practiced. Um, so this sort of almost started a little bit on a dare a bit, like put
yeah.
your, you say you can do it, so, put up or shut up. So then you were working there to make that guitar. What was that process like for you? Did it come relatively easy, or were you really in over your head immediately?
Well, I was a handy person
Mhm.
from a young age. My dad let me use all his tools for whatever I wanted to use. I used to rebuild bicycles, and I made go-karts, and I knew how to work with my hands. And so it didn't seem like it would be that much of a stretch. I mean, I knew how to use power equipment, but it
Sure.
was a matter of like the stuff that you have to know to make a guitar is like how long do the strings have to be? Where do the frets go? How do they line up
Yeah.
between the nut and the bridge and go over the pickup just right? And but an electric guitar is a fairly basic instrument because you're not dealing necessarily with the acoustical properties of the wood. As
Hmm.
long as it's a reasonably dense wood, then you can get a reasonably decent guitar out of it. So
Now, how did that first how did that first guitar itself actually come out? Were you happy with it, or were you like,
I was happy with it.
yeah, yeah,
I was happy with it. It was just, because it looked like it, because of the guidance of John Roberts, I was able to get a good
right,
finish on it. And he had some suggestions of like the neck was made out of rosewood, but in order to give it strength, we cut it into strips. And he
mm,
said, "Oh, why don't you flip every other strip and then glue it together?" So when you look at the back of the neck, it's got kind of a herringbone
right,
pattern to it, which looked really cool.
nice,
Um,
nice, yeah,
we weren't, the shop wasn't doing truss rods yet, so it was
right. So you
it
needed that extra strength to prevent it
I
from,
needed the extra
yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
yeah.
Now,
And
so
then the
then,
body was
oh, go ahead, finish what you're saying.
yeah, the body was mahogany, and then I did I did sort of like a sound port looking circle right at the end of the neck. And I don't remember now if it was just to cover up where the neck joined the body or whether I thought it would look cool because
Mhm.
SG really stands for Spanish guitar. And
Right.
shouldn't it have like a sound hole?
Now, then how did then this Baby Snakes guitar come to be? My understanding is that it was like a salvaged, fire damaged guitar. Is that true?
I don't remember what the damage was now. But
Sure.
the process is that I made that first guitar and I got totally hooked. And I went back and started making other guitars. And I became kind of like I don't know, the teacher's pet for John Roberts. And then he got enough students going that he moved into a new location and opened up John Roberts Guitar Works, which he then called Juan Roberto's Guitar Works
Okay.
because I don't know,
Sounds
Spanish
fancy.
guitar making.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
sounds fancy. And that was closer to my house, and he was open till like at least midnight every night. So I
Wow.
could go there after school and work on stuff. And he just kind of let me have the run of the place. And after a couple of guitars, he said, "Why don't we do this? Why don't you make two guitars and you keep one and I keep one?"
Hmm.
It didn't cost me anything to work there. So I ended up making, you know, two or four steel strings, some classical guitars, a flamenco guitar, um, a couple of electrics, um, maybe four electrics, two bass guitars and two electrics before the Baby Snakes thing happened.
Oh, wow. So by the time you did Baby Snakes, you'd
I've
churned
been
out a
making,
fair number of instruments then.
yeah, so
Yeah.
probably about 3.5, 4 years of guitars.
Okay.
So I was in the shop one day and somebody came in with an SG and said, "I don't know what to do with this. You guys want it?" And I was standing closest to him. So I said, "I'll take it." So it was a matter of building a new neck for it. And we had this. So John Roberts had been a pilot in Nicaragua for a lumber company, and he'd
Hmm.
been collecting wood to build a yacht.
Hmm.
And his wife had some medical issues with her eyesight, and they had to come back to the U.S. So he had the wood that he'd been collecting shipped up to Phoenix, Arizona. So by boat to Louisiana and then by rail to Phoenix.
Wow.
And he had it was beautiful wood, but some of it wasn't really good for guitar making because the burl grain, which is attractive, has a lot of weak little veins in it. So
Hmm.
you can't really make a back out of it that won't crack. Um, but there was some of that around. And I thought, well, that'd be a good thing to inlay into the face of the SG because
Hmm.
the SG body, the mahogany body will stabilize it.
Right.
And then I built a new neck for it. It's a mahogany neck with I think there's a rosewood strip down the center for putting in the truss rod. And then I just replicated the look of a Gibson. So it's got a Gibson style headstock on it and the word
Right.
Gibson inlaid in it.
Now that Gibson inlay, which has like a little star in there to sort of clue anyone that it's not a real
Yes.
Gibson. But that inlay, is that actually silver? Is that
My
correct?
recollection is that it's silver, but after I started talking about this, I realized I made another SG after that
Okay.
that I inlaid with walnut. And maybe that's the one that was silver. So it's
Okay.
It's either mother of pearl or silver.
All right. Well, it looks pretty shiny, so it's um now and then one of the things. So when I interviewed Heritage Auctions about baby snakes, about the upcoming auction, and their guitar expert Dave Hinson was on that call. He said that the scale length on this instrument was a little bit longer than a standard Gibson scale length.
Yeah.
It wasn't a full Fender scale length. It was somewhere in the middle, almost sort of like a PRS. Is that true and accurate?
Yeah. So when I first started at this shop, that we had these fret scales that had been predetermined by someone. I don't know who, but
Mhm.
it was like a metal rule with some notches in it for where the
Right.
frets were. And there was a whatever the classical guitar scale is, and then there was sort of the Gibson scale. And I was kind of curious about why there were those two scales and how do you calculate where the frets are supposed to go.
Mhm.
So I started doing this research first at the high school library, and then when I couldn't find stuff, I started going to the library at ASU.
Hmm.
Um, and I found some old German book on guitar making, and it had some formulas in there for determining fret distances. So really, I could pick any length I wanted and
Wow.
figure out where the frets were going to go. So that was just me sort of flexing, like, oh, I have this newfound skill.
Yeah, yeah.
I can measure new fret distances.
It allowed the neck to have one extra fret too, right?
Yeah,
Which is something
and
that I think Frank was attracted to, and he talks about in interviews about the instrument, is that it has that one extra note that you don't normally get, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm so glad that I did that, plus the star on the Gibson, so that you would know it was a
Right.
custom instrument.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, right? If you would just try to restore it and make it look like a stock Gibson SG and Frank had bought it, maybe there would be no way to sort of
Right.
trace it back. Now, after you had built this guitar, how did it end up in Frank's hands? I mean, obviously you must have sold it to him, but how did that process go about? How did that even happen?
Well, it started off that I first showed it to Steve Howe of Yes.
Okay.
So I was at a BB King show one day,
Okay.
and after the warm-up band left, I saw this friend of mine from high school like rolling an amp out onto the stage. And I'm like, how did he get on stage? So I talked to him at school a couple days later. He goes, "Oh, you just show up at the stage door when the roadies are loading in and offer to help them, and then you get to stay." So I thought, oh, so that's how you get access to bands.
Yeah, yeah.
So then I thought so the next band that was coming to town was Yes, which I just recently fallen in love with. So
Mhm.
I just went to the stage door at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, they were unloading 3 semi trucks of equipment, and
Yeah.
I just helped unload it. I helped break up dry ice for the smoke machine later that evening. And then when the band arrived later in the afternoon for the sound check, I went into the dressing room with them, and Steve Howe, Chris Squire, and John Anderson all played on the guitar and looked at it and seemed to appreciate it, but they weren't interested in buying it.
Yeah, yeah. But
So
sorry, I just gotta ask you a question. It's like, so you're this young kid who's sort of, been hauling stuff around, and now everyone's backstage. Do you remember the way you approached them to be like, oh, by the way, I have this guitar. Do you want to play it? Like, I mean, that's pretty ballsy to just,
well, I was inside, so I already
yeah,
had some sort of because the roadies let me in.
yeah,
I guess I was vetted on some level.
yeah, yeah.
And so Steve, walked by and said, "Hey, I've got a guitar I'd like to show you." And he said, "Yeah, sure, I'll take a look at it." He
That's
loves
amazing.
he loves guitars.
Yeah, yeah.
I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago when the band played in Mesa, Arizona. I flew
Mhm.
down to see the show. He has 6 lyre guitars. It's the one that it looks like it's from Star Trek. It
Yeah.
has the long um, horns on the upper bout.
Okay.
And it was designed, it has a bass. It can actually sit on a square bass, but it's like the kind of thing that women would play in court like this, sort of
Yeah,
upright and
sure, right. Yeah.
daintily like that. But he loves that stuff.
Amazing.
So he was happy to take a look at what was
Yeah,
on
yeah.
offer. Yeah.
So but nonetheless weren't interested in buying it. So then what was the next step then? Did you just look to see who was coming to town next, or what, how did it tell us?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I knew Frank Zappa was coming to town, and I thought, well, I'll just try this again.
yeah. Were you
And
particularly a big Zappa fan, or just he happened to be coming to town?
well, no, the first concert I ever saw was Frank Zappa and the
Okay.
Mothers. Yeah, so that was 1969. I went with my older brother and his friends, and it was like, oh my God, this is amazing to see like live music this
Yeah,
big, you know. It
yeah.
was at the Phoenix Coliseum,
Mm,
and they had two stages. So, you know, the opening act would start off on this stage, and then the next band. So the first band was 20th Century Zoo, and
okay.
then the second band was the Chambers Brothers, and then Zappa came on last. So
Wow.
they had this way of sort of interchanging the equipment without interfering with the flow of the concert.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was fun and it was funny. I mean, I'd been listening to Frank Zappa already with Freak Out and Absolutely Free.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, I was already into the music, but just see him, you know, he's a character on stage.
Of course.
He's engaged with the audience as much as he is with the band, and he's very engaged with the band, you know,
Hmm.
because he's giving them their cues and the timings and all of that stuff. So yeah, so Zappa was coming to town next, and he was going to be playing at the Celebrity Theater, which was a really lovely venue. It's a theater in the round with a rotating stage,
Mm.
and I was at the stage door with another friend of mine who had a 57 or 59 Les Paul that he wanted to sell.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And we just sat there with our guitars and our cases, and Frank came by and said, "Hey, we've got guitar we'd like you to look at." And he said, "Well, let me see." And so we opened the cases, and he looked at my friend's case. He said, "No, everyone thinks that a rocker will give his left nut for a Les Paul,
Yeah. But he just
because
waved it away.
he waved it away. He said, let me take a look at that one." So we went inside the venue, and I waited in the hallway while he messed around in the dressing room playing on it.
Mm.
And at the same time, there's a guy standing at the end of the hall, is looking at me. He's wearing a little sports cap and a beard, and he said, "Hey," and I said, "Hey," and it turned out to be Tom Waits, who was opening up for
Oh, wow.
Frank Zappa. Was like, that was kind of a magic moment.
Yeah, right. That's wild.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, Frank played the guitar for a little while, and he came out of the dressing room and he said, "Yeah, I'll buy it. And how much do you want?" And he said, "Meet me for breakfast tomorrow morning, and I'll give you the cash."
Oh, wow. Now, I know there's a lot of debate as to whether it was 500 or $600. I don't think there is a definitive memory of this anymore, but
There's a well, because all this is happening,
yeah.
I started going through stuff that I had collected, and I came across a newspaper article from the Scottsdale Progress.
Okay.
Scottsdale is my hometown.
All right.
That came out in 1980, where I say that I sold that guitar for $800.
800. Okay.
Yeah.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
All right. So do we feel
So,
that's
so,
the
so,
definitive?
so I think that's more definitive than now because, you know, after the pandemic, my memory just went to hell.
All right. So we said so I think so breaking news,
This is breaking news.
$800.
You've got it.
All right, I got the scoop. Okay, because this is it's funny because uh this is oddly now one of several videos I have talking about this guitar between the Heritage Auction, the review of this book, Zappa Gear by Mick Eakers, and now this. And it's funny, there's always comments of people saying, "Oh, it was 500. No, I read it with $600. This is back and forth." But all right, I'm going to
Well,
say,
I'm sure I'm the one that gave out all the misinformation.
well, I love it. Okay, so you went the next morning to go pick it up. So he kept the guitar overnight, and you just had a
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
I trust.
Yeah. Were you nervous at all? I mean, probably not, but
Well, he has kind of a reputation for being
straight shooter, I guess.
a straight shooter. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he doesn't. He suffers fools not a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So like when it was time for me to go, it was pretty clear it was time for me.
All
Like, here's
right.
your money. He didn't say like sit down and have pancakes with me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So were you just you walked in? He's having breakfast at the hotel, I'm guessing, where he was staying, or
So the Celebrity Theater used to have on its property a Travelodge hotel,
okay.
and that's where bands would stay.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Travelodge had their own restaurant with a
Yeah.
counter. I mean, it was a very sort of 50s, 60s style lunch counter, and he was just sitting at the counter
All right, all
having
right.
his breakfast.
So
Yeah.
he's at the counter, cup of coffee, I assume, and you just sort of walked in, and he just cash in hand, or did he?
Yeah, we chatted for a little bit,
Yeah.
and I don't remember what we chatted about,
Sure.
but you know, I wanted to stay, but I
Yeah,
didn't want to impose. So it was like
yeah,
this
yeah.
delicate dance. And he gave me the cash and I was on my way.
Now, after that guitar was sold to Frank, I would imagine that there was a strong feeling of, okay, like this is, I've done like a big, like this is a big accomplishment, like this is a big success, you know. But you then transitioned out of guitar making and into photography. What
Yes,
spurred that shift? Or
but
how did that
first,
happen? Yeah, okay, but
but
first,
first,
yeah, tell me
so
but
after
first.
after I had shown the guitar to Steve Howe, and he said, "Well, I really like the big fat hollow body electrics. Like
Okay,
his favorite is the Gibson ES 175.
sure.
It's like it's that thick, and he's a very jazz oriented
Yeah,
guitarist. He loves Django Reinhardt.
yeah. Who does?
So so after I sold Zappa the guitar, I came across a Gibson ES 175 in a pawn shop,
Mm,
and I fixed it up, and I fixed it up in a way that I thought he would like it. So I put Grover tuners on it,
mm.
and the Cluson tuners that were on there, I pulled off the head off of one of those tuners and put it on the three-way switch on
Oh,
the ES
okay.
175 because I'd seen him doing that in a
Yeah, yeah.
photograph somewhere, a guitar player or something. So I fixed it up, and the next time they came through town, I showed it to him, and he bought it.
Oh, okay.
I thought, okay, well, this is fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so it was probably so 1975 was when I got interested in photography. I'd been on vacation. I took photos. I was like, oh, this is exciting. Like I was in Norway and I took pictures with a Nikon and they came out well. So I thought I want to start doing this and started working in camera shops and then
Mm,
eventually assisting and eventually shooting. Um, but in 1980, I went to go see Steve Howe in LA. Yes was performing with this time with Jeff Downs and Trevor Horn, who had been in the Buggles and joined Yes for one tour.
sure.
And I had a guitar sketch that I brought with me. For some reason, I thought I could still sell them on a solid body. And I showed him this sketch, and he goes, "Yeah, that looks good, but you know what I really want is an electric lute that I can play on stage." So I went home and I made an electric lute,
Okay.
and I used the Juan Roberto guitar shop to build it. So I made a solid body, maple body, maple neck, ebony fretboard with the sort of the 90-degree peg
Right.
head on it
Right.
with 14 strings. I wound my own pickups for it, and then took a chance and just flew to London with my wife at the time and called him up and said, "Hey, I built an electric lute." So he came to the hotel, he looked at it, he bought it, sold it to him for $3,000.
Nice, nice. Well
And then
done.
we spent a couple of days just hanging out and going to dinner and seeing his house and seeing his guitar collection and
Amazing.
doing that sort of thing. Yeah. And then I came home and I did this calculation of like, yeah, Steve, how about this lute for $3,000? But how many people could spend that much? This is $1980.
Sure.
Could spend that much on an instrument unless they were a rock star.
Right.
And how do I get to those people? And I just thought, I don't know if I can do this for a living.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to invest in the equipment, because I can't just go on using the Roberto Van School. So I thought I'm just going to focus in on photography.
Right. And I mean, I think the sort of I don't know if it's a joke or not, but like some of the luthiers I've talked to, it's they'll say something to the effect of, well, if you want to be a luthier, you better get really comfortable with the idea of just doing replacing
Repairs.
frets all the time, right? Like
Yes,
just doing
exactly.
repairs and fret leveling and that type of stuff, upgrading tuners or whatever. Because maybe to your point, like those big projects, they don't really happen that often, and it's all that sort of smaller stuff. When you decided to get out of guitar building, did you then just sort of set that part of your life on a shelf and say like I'm done building, I'm going to go into photography full force, or did those things did guitar building sort of float in the background now as a hobby as opposed to a job pursuit?
Well, so I started to make that guitar that I had shown Steve Howe, the solid body, which is the other guitar that's up for sale on
Right,
Heritage Auctions.
right. Is that the Bubba Snakes?
the Bubba snakes.
Bubba snakes, yeah.
They wanted to call it adult snakes, and I said no. It's like the little brother to baby snakes, so it's Bubba snakes.
Bubba snakes. All right.
Yeah. So that name
Yeah.
was just made up for the occasion of the sale.
I love it. I love it. It's a
But yeah,
cool looking, super cool looking guitar, by the way. We'll
oh,
put up
thanks.
photos on screen so people can see it, but it's really amazing. It's got this aluminum block, right?
Yeah, so the body is four pieces. So it's the front and back are book match pieces of Pau Ferro.
Mhm.
And so because I was laminating all together anyway, I thought I'm going to put a block of aluminum in the middle. It's going to be pre-threaded for the bridge and the tailpiece
Mm.
so that it's a very tight fit.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I figured it's going to give it some more sustain to lock that down. And Pau Ferro is a super heavy wood.
Right.
And it's a little bit heavier than I wanted it to be.
Right. I think the guitar is like 11 pounds, maybe I think as a total weight.
Probably 11 and 3/4.
Or it's 11 and change. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
depending on the gauge of your strings.
Sure. Yeah. That's yes. Now, so you continue to work on that guitar, but then you really went full force into photography. I mean, people watching this can see you have quite a nicely lit studio that you're in now for this interview. Um, but that you've had a very successful career as a photographer. I mean, I think portraiture is primarily what you've
Yeah,
focused on. Is that correct?
yeah. So
Yeah.
one of the transition moments, um, sort of separating the guitar making from the photography, is that my father died and I got divorced and I just changed direction.
Right.
And it just created this moment where I had to start making some, where began making some different decisions.
Yeah.
And I worked in a camera store, and one of my customers heard that I had quit the camera store because I had a full blown like midlife crisis.
Mm.
My father died at age 56, and I was 28 at that point, and I felt like, oh God, half my life is gone. I got to do stuff. Um, but anyway, one of my customers called me up and said, "Hey, I heard you've quit the camera store. I need an assistant."
Mm.
So I started assisting him, and that's where I really started to learn photography. He taught me about lighting. He taught me about composition. He taught me about the process of doing a photo shoot, so I could just sort of see how it all unfolds in front of my eyes, rather
Right.
than just being like the weekender who goes out and takes pictures of landscapes, which is fine. But I wanted to do, Horst P. Horst was kind of an inspiration for me, photography wise. He did a lot of photography for Vogue magazine in the 50s and 60s.
Hmm.
So anyway, I wanted to learn all that studio stuff. And
Yeah.
plus this guy taught me about the business of photography, of how do you set your price, and how do you deal with
Right.
clients? How do you be a good, how do you be a good vendor to them? So that was like this change into photography.
Yeah.
And
And the business side of it that is a very whole separate skill to have. Like
yes,
being, and I know that this is obvious to you and I because, as we've talked off camera, like I'm into photography and I do photography as a lot for my profession. Um, but you're talking also in the film era, like there's no digital.
that's right. Yeah.
So this understanding of what you're talking about is of learning like lighting and those types of technical skills. It's not like now you can look through the camera and you can shoot and have capture one and see on screen
Right.
and adjust your settings from your raw photos to know what you're going to get. But shooting film in a studio, you have to be able to see how that's going to translate to film. That's a very unique skill that a lot of young photographers perhaps are not learning because the technology isn't
Right.
used in that same way anymore.
Well, we did use a lot of Polaroid.
Yeah, right. Sure. Sure. For instant sort of checks, I guess,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long then did you have this photography career? I mean, I know you're still working as a photographer, right?
Well, I did a bunch of this stuff. So
Okay.
this photographer I worked for was a great photographer, but what we were photographing was not anything I cared about very much. We did a lot
Okay.
of computers,
All right.
frames. We did like a 6-week job for Honeywell,
Okay.
where we
So
would, yeah, we'd
like
photograph these things in an environment, and I was like, I can't do this. So
sure,
I,
like like a corporate gig to light a giant room of
Exactly.
mainframes and make it look cool in a brochure or something. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
we'd have to shoot the computers three different ways because there was the European Honeywell market, and then there was the American Honeywell market, and then
Mhm.
there's the Japanese Honeywell market.
Sure.
The Americans like to have people in their photographs, but the Japanese do not. And,
Sure.
and the French has is Honeywell Bowl, so they have to have different logos.
Oh man.
I
Yeah.
mean, it
Wow.
was fun. It was great. And
Yeah.
we had like a raft of new models every day to work with. And
Yeah.
we had a big crew, which is always fun.
Mhm.
And that was great. But
And
I
it pays the
wanted,
bills.
and it pays the bills. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
But then through this photographer, I met an art director at one of the computer firms, and I liked what he and his partner were doing at this firm. I was like, oh, I want to learn how to do that. So I got into graphic design
Mm.
and, learned how to set type and spec it and learned how to do design in the old sort of paste up way with X-Acto
Right.
knives and ruby lith and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I was continuing to shoot for myself, doing more art photography, just photographing people and having little shows at like these small galleries in Phoenix. And then an old friend of mine offered to have me move to the Bay Area and be the staff photographer for a magazine that he was publishing.
Mm.
And so left Phoenix, moved up here. And by the time I got here, that magazine had folded.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Through no fault of his own. It was owned. The magazine was owned by some sort of mass publisher in Texas, and they owned like these city magazines, like
Yeah, right.
San Francisco Magazine, Los Angeles Magazine, and they didn't want to do San Francisco anymore. So the crew that was there said, "Hey, you know what? Why don't we just change the name and put it out ourselves?"
Mm.
Um, so I was on that team. I became the advertising art director and staff photographer, but there was no salary.
Okay.
We worked on trade. So all the ads that we sold for restaurants and stuff like that was just on trade. So
Mm.
we paid ourselves by eating out.
Right, right.
So because I wasn't earning any money, I needed to find some other work that paid the bills. And through my friend, found another magazine that was looking for an art director, and that magazine was called Mondo 2000. And that was the sort of the precursor to Wired. It was the first magazine of cyberculture.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we had Timothy Leary on our advisory board. Um, we did stories about Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak taking acid that inspired them to start Apple. And so we were
Right.
trying to tie together the intersection of uh, drugs, technology, and music. And now I was the art director of a magazine that was super glossy and was getting some attention, and I was shooting all the covers.
Right.
So I sort of parlayed that art director job into becoming a freelance photographer. So by the time I left the magazine, I had multiple clients that I was shooting for.
Amazing.
Time Magazine, Newsweek, Sports Illustrated. So just followed that. So I did editorial photography for many years.
Just to talk about portraiture for a second as a sort of a segue back to this guitar conversation. Sort of behind you there, there's this photo of Frank with the Baby Snakes guitar.
Yes.
I have sort of two questions about that, but how did that photo come about? And then, I think it's become somewhat an important photo for both the provenance of this guitar and it's it's in the book here, it's in the auction. There's a signed copy, right? Frank there's a signed one
Right.
that he signed and print that you've created. But also as a photographer, are there times now where you look at that photo and you go like, I wish I'd had more time to do that. Because it looks like you're maybe in like a hallway or something, right? I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the story of that photo?
Well, so in early 1980, went to a Zappa show and waited at the stage door and said, "Hey, can I photograph you with that guitar?" And he said yes. So I
Now, did he
took his.
remember that you had sold it to him? That you would?
I don't know that he would have recognized me, but he knew what I was talking about.
Sure, yeah.
So he let me in, and I photographed him. I got to stay for the concert, you know, in the
Yeah.
premium seat.
All
And then a
right.
few months later, I'd gotten a print made from it, and I went back to see him and had him sign it.
Now, when this book Zappa Gear came out, right?
Yeah.
This was a for Zappa nerds like myself, or just gear nerds like myself. It's a really incredible like resource. And obviously, Mick Eakers, who wrote this book, he spent time, interviewing you, and there's obviously photos of the guitar in here. And like I said, if anyone is interested, please, get this book. Look, here's the photo we're talking about, right? You can see there.
By the
Uh,
way, Mick Eakers and Tony Bacon are the only ones that were authorized to use that photo.
okay,
Any other version you see of it online,
yeah.
I didn't give permission for
All
that.
right, so everyone pay attention.
It's been out of my hands.
Oh, of course, yeah,
I
yeah.
surrendered.
Well, don't surrender. You gotta fight for your art. But so when he came to you though to interview you about this and he had tracked you down, like I said before, I found this book. You were like a mystery ghost that people talked about. Who had made this. I didn't even know if you were still alive. Like it was just like this. It was this vague concept. And everyone, obviously, Frank had made modifications, or people were trying to speculate what everything did about it. So when he came to you and to interview about this, was that a moment of like, oh my God, I had no idea that people were so interested in this guitar, or had you sort of been aware that that was always happening in the background?
Occasionally I would see things.
Hmm.
I think I would probably just search for Frank Zappa and find these articles, where I was always referred to as some guy in Phoenix.
Right.
And and I was, but I'm more than that.
Of course.
But leading up to talking to Mick and to Tony Bacon, um, I've been getting like these weird phone calls.
Mm.
Some guy called me up and he goes, "I want to interview you about this thing." And I'm like, "Who are you?" He's like,
Yeah.
I'm just interested in guitars and I just want to know."
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
just some random guy. He kind of grilled me for an hour. And I think he was unsure that I was really the guy that made the guitar. So he had
Well,
all of
I
these.
mean, look, I'm gonna be, you saw an Instagram message from me that basically said, "Hi, the internet tells me that maybe you're the person that made this guitar. Hello?" Like, and it wasn't until Heritage Auctions put me in contact with you that it was like I actually knew that I had the right person. And like I said, you've been this mystery, this enigma that we've wanted to know. We want,
Yeah, but now I'm here to let you down.
yeah, no, no, this is incredible.
I mean, I knew something up was up about 3 years ago. I got a call from an art appraiser in
Hmm.
LA. It was just sort of like checking the provenance. It's like,
Oh,
did you make this guitar and blah blah blah? And he wanted to know whatever details I knew. And I said, is this going to be sold? What's happening? He goes, well, I'm doing this on behalf of the Zappa Family Trust.
oh,
And that's
interesting.
all he would tell me. So
All
I
right.
thought it's going to go up for sale at some point, but I didn't know that there was going to be like this fervor and interest in it.
In with all the interest that there has been for this guitar, obviously the sale of the guitar is itself a really big deal, and it'll probably fetch quite a bit of money. I think the starting bid is 300,000, and they're expecting a lot more than that.
Yeah,
Uh,
but what if it doesn't even, what if no one bids?
well, I have a feeling it's gonna sell. Um, and so, but to that point, like you have the Bubba Snakes is also in that auction. There's two
Yeah.
bases, which I'd love to talk about in a second. But over the years, has anyone tracked you down and said, "Hey, can you make me a baby snakes?" Has anyone like tried to get
No,
you to make them a
no,
copy or a clone? Do you
no.
feel like you even, I mean, obviously there's uniqueness to that guitar and its electronics and the book matching of the wood, but do you think you could make a clone or a copy or a modern baby snakes if someone.
Well, I could do the wood portion of it.
Okay.
What the electronics that Rex Bogue did, I could probably find out what that was and install it, but it's,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm surprised that no one has tried to get you to make one, and uh, you know, I'll just say like if you ever decide that you're going to start making baby snakes clones, let me know.
It's
Um,
funny. Have you seen that there are people that make them?
yes, well that's
It's
something I've seen over the years. Like when Gibson did that short run of the Roxy SG, I think that was like for myself personally, I was like, that's a really cool guitar, and it played great, and I regret not buying it. That was a dumb decision on my part. Um, but I remember thinking at the time, oh, I wish it was Baby Snakes. Like that's the guitar, right? And so that's it's just super iconic. It's one of Frank's most iconic instruments. It's obviously the Shut Up and Play Your Guitar Les Paul, the yellow Strat, um, and the Roxy SG. But the Baby Snakes guitar, because it's featured in that film, and because frankly, it just looks so friggin' cool. Bart, like you don't it's such a cool looking guitar. The inlays on it and the way the wood is, it's got a lot of mojo and mystery to it. And clearly, I think it speaks to your skill as a builder that Frank not only was attracted to it visually, but he then played it and he was like this, in his head, he must have thought this plays great. And he played it for all those years. And like everything, he swapped electronics. He always was doing that. But
Right.
the core feel of the instrument, the neck, the frets, all that stuff, it's the weight of it, the way it sits. I mean, that's all you. I mean, you deserve a lot of credit for that. It wouldn't be a guitar at auction, if he hadn't liked it, and that's
Right.
because
Well,
of
I mean,
you.
but yeah, but a lot of the mojo is from him playing it. I was just lucky enough to get it into his hands,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was the right fit for him. So,
Yes,
I,
but don't sell yourself short. It's cool. So we talked a little bit about Bubba Snakes, but these two basses that are in the auction, uh, the pickups on one of these, you've got this wild sort of like pickup pattern here. Um, talk about that. What's going on there?
so the first one I built, this was for my friend Paul Hollowell, and he was the bass player in one of the first bands that I was a sound engineer for. So my friend who had challenged me to make a guitar,
Okay.
out of high school, he started a band, and Paul was the bass player. And this was in a time before people had good sound systems. So we had the PA was like a Shure head, with maybe 8 channels on it,
Yeah.
and two, 4 foot tall speakers. That was it. When they started playing, I started hearing like that it doesn't sound right, and I would run up on the stage and I would twist the knobs on the head to get the sound right, and that evolved into my job as the sound engineer for this band.
Love it.
So Paul had a Hagstrom bass, and when he, saw that I was making some nice instruments, he said, "Can you make a new body for this neck? Because the Hagstrom had a bolt-on neck."
hmm
I made a new body, which again it was out of Pau Ferro, same thing that Bubba Snakes is made from. Um, and he played that for a while. He goes, "Well, you might as well just go ahead and make me a new neck for this." So that was kind of a two-step process of building that bass, and that had Gibson pickups on it.
Right.
And then he wanted to try something with, Fender pickups. So then I duplicated that body in rock maple and did a more elaborate. So originally that he wanted a fretless bass, and so I made a fretless neck for it.
Mm.
And after a while, he goes, "Oh, I don't think I could play fretless. Put frets in it." And then I put in the inlays and more elaborate inlays than before.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think so I don't remember like how much farther apart strings are on a precision, but those are precision pickups, and I just had to angle them so that the pull pieces would line up with the strings.
Got it. Okay. Because it's got a really like eye-catching look with those sort of pickups in like very Z sort of
Yeah.
configuration. It's really eye-catching bass, and the inlays on it are really incredible too. In terms of those guitars that you made pre-Baby Snakes, what happened to those? Do you know where those are? I mean, are they floating around somewhere, or have you encountered them again in later in life?
Well, there was one, yeah. So there was a style of guitar that we made at the shop that was called a double back. Um, it was during the time of Ovation guitars,
Sure. Yeah.
when they first came out, and Juan Roberto thought it would be cool to like do an inner back inside of the guitar to bounce the sound back out the sound hole. And I didn't agree with that design because I thought it made the guitars too heavy.
Okay.
So as part of our deal, I would make 2 guitars like that for him, and then I would make 2 whatever I wanted for myself. So when the internet first opened up, and I knew finally learned how to use a search engine, I searched for myself,
Yeah.
and what popped up was a guitar for sale in Chicago that said this is a Juan Roberto guitar made by Bart Nagel.
Hmm.
So I bought it because I figured, there's never going to be another chance to see a
Yeah,
guitar like
right.
this. So I bought it. So that's when I re-encountered
Okay.
after the way after the fact.
And is that the guitar? I think you have an interview with Amit Zappa on Heritage Auctions site. Is that the guitar that you then gave to
My
your
son.
son, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
So
want
the
to talk a
back,
little about that story at all? It was kind of a nice sort of bookended story. I thought that was very emotional, kind of nice.
yeah, it was one of those things I hadn't, wasn't making any plan to tell that story, but it came out and it seemed
Sure.
appropriate. But, I got my girlfriend pregnant in high school and we were too young to have a child. So we gave him up for adoption.
Mhm.
And then many, many years later, I was able to find him, and I had that guitar. And the
Mhm.
thing is that guitar was the one that my girlfriend and I had both worked on. So both our names are on the label because she would come to the shop with me in the evenings and, sand stuff and glue things and,
Sure.
just help me out just to spend time together.
Yeah, yeah.
So it seemed like she was pregnant at that time. So it
Yeah.
seemed like that guitar is the exact same age as my son. And so when I met him again, or met him for the first time, I should say,
Oh
I was
wow.
able to give him this guitar and say, "Look, your mother and I made this."
I think that's really beautiful. And I assume he still has that guitar then.
Yes, unless he gave it to his daughter, because his
Okay.
guitar, my granddaughter is a guitar player,
Oh, okay.
and yeah,
I like that story of the guitar. It's sort of, it's very sweet to have that connection loop back. What is next for Bart? What's the future look like?
I don't know. It looks bright. I don't know what it's
Okay.
going to be yet. So, I have a studio here, and I do photo shoots in here. The My primary business has been corporate headshots. So, when Google first started, I did all of their executive portraits.
Mhm.
Um, and that gave me entree into all the other sort of Silicon Valley startups.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's been going for a while, but it's slowing down, and I don't know if that's AI or that I've aged out. You know, I feel fine, I feel fit, but at 71 years old, maybe the young art directors and photo editors are like looking for, their own crews of people.
Sure,
So
yeah. Well, it's always the commercial art world is always a very amorphous, changing place of who knows who, all right? So,
right.
do you think you're gonna make any more guitars though?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been looking at YouTube videos of other makers for years. Um, and the guy who made Parker guitars,
Ken Parker, right? Yeah.
yeah,
He just sadly just passed away.
yeah, very
Yeah.
sad. I mean, because I didn't care for the look of the electrics, the
Mhm.
flies,
Right.
but his acoustic guitar with the arch top and
Oh,
the kind of funny sound
yeah.
hole, but the super lightweightness of it,
Yeah.
I really want to hear one in person
Yeah.
because
I mean, obviously his contribution to guitar building and just as a direction to make guitars, electrics and his arch tops are just really incredible. I mean, obviously a huge
yeah,
visionary in the field. Yeah.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
would like to do something. I want to do an arch top because I
Yeah.
want to, and I have a couple of choices. I've got a neighbor down the street who makes guitars. He said, "You can use my CNC machine. You want to
Okay.
do arch tops, but kind of want to just carve it by hand,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
old style." I mean, when I was first making guitars, I actually read books on violin making because there were more resources at that time.
Right.
And it really got me interested in violin making. Like, how do you carve that? How do you determine the thickness and all of that stuff? So,
Right. I would say I know that you do post on Instagram, so I would encourage people to obviously follow you there to see what adventures may be next. But please let me know too, because I'd love to be able
sure,
to give you some attention, of course, as new things get created.
I'll let you know.
All
Yeah.
right. All right.
So, just a word of warning: Instagram is just a playground for me. So I don't post. It's there. I don't do my business portraits
Yeah,
there. That's
sure,
just
sure.
like whatever image I think is cool, I'll just post it. So
Yeah, yeah. That's the new way, right? It's just whatever. It's a free reign.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Bart. This is, like I said, really a very fun experience for me because I can't tell you how many hours I've spent of my life late at night on search using search engines and going through forums to try to learn about things about this guitar, and it was even finding out about the scale length when I talked to Heritage. I don't think anyone ever talked about that before, and it's amazing to obviously hear sort of that
Well,
process,
it's
how that came
and
about.
I hadn't thought about it, but it's I'm so glad that Dave Hinson was the guy that just
Yeah,
went over that guitar. He's a great guy.
yeah.
Enjoyed meeting him when I went to Dallas, and sharp guy, and he seems to know all the stuff
Oh yeah,
as
yeah,
well as all the musicians. You know,
yeah. Yes, yes.
yeah.
He's great to talk to, and he has his own shop, Killer Vintage, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Um, yes. So, all right. Well, I will tell everyone who's watching this, please,
Well,
now's
wait.
your chance. Oh, wait. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me
Jump
ask
in.
you.
All right.
What do you think Baby Snakes is going to sell for?
Ooh, that's a good question. I say this with total respect for your work. When they said that it was the opening bid was 300,000, I was like a little bit like double taked, right? Because in my head, I don't really know how much things go for. I thought they'd maybe say 100,000, I had no idea. And then in that conversation, they said, well, we pick a number that's sort of like half of what we think it's worth. So I was like, oh wow. So they're thinking like 600,000 they might go for. So I don't know. I do know that what I would hope though is that whoever does end up buying it um, doesn't just put it in a case and hide it in a vault and it never gets seen again. I hope that it either is purchased by a top tier musician who's obviously going to respect it and play it and let people hear it. Or if it's going into a museum somewhere that I'll be able to go look at it behind glass and wipe the drool from my face. Um, because yeah, I don't know. I certainly would of course love to see Dweezil end up with it, but I don't know if he's got the money for it or not. I have no idea.
Well, and I don't know that it's his favorite guitar either.
Yeah,
So,
I have no idea. He may want to steer clear of it, but
well,
I'm
it's too bad that,
yeah,
Jim Irsay passed away because he's the kind of guy who would have bought the guitar
yeah,
and let other musicians borrow it.
yeah.
And
I
that would
think
have been kind of fun.
right. I think that would have been absolutely probably the immediate buyer I would have thought of, um, because yeah, like I said, I just hope it doesn't end up in some overseas vault, being is just some collectible to say that someone owns. Um,
Well,
but yeah,
that's the other question I have is like with Jim Irsay's collection going up for sale in
right.
March, does that impact, are people going to say like, well, I'm not going to buy Baby Snakes. I'm going to hold out for this
Yeah, I don't
other
know.
collection that's coming out. So,
I don't know. It's a mystery. This is a world that I'm gonna be honest, I'm looking at like a new guitar and it's like $1,500. I'm like, whoa, hold up. You know, like um, I got two little kids and a mortgage and all that stuff, and I'm like, I do have to do a lot of window shopping these days. But yeah, I would say the thing that I think is really exciting is that you do have Bubba Snakes and those two basses, and people like myself. I mean, I'll don't know what those will go for, but as of right now, looking at their opening bids, I'm like, I got to make a Heritage account and I gotta put some money in on the rare chance that something sneaks through the cracks there.
yeah.
Um,
So at this point on Saturday, November 29th,
Ninth, yeah, yeah,
um, the Bubba Snakes and the two basses have bids on them and
yeah,
everything else does not.
yeah.
So there's two
Well,
photos. There's the fine art version of this photo,
right,
the 24 by 36, this size, that's up for sale. It's one of one. I only
hmm
printed an artist proof and that one that's in the auction. And then there's the autographed version,
right.
which is a different version than this.
Yeah,
It's,
you can see
this,
it's a little bit of a obviously it was it's been printed long ago since Frank signed it, so it's
Yeah,
a little bit of a different. But yes, I think that I would expect whoever is going to bid on baby snakes is going to really want to bid on that signed photo too. I would imagine that.
that's what
that
I'm hoping for.
yeah, I think that those two will fetch a really decent price. Yeah, I bet baby snakes goes for close to that 600,000. I think it's possible. I think
When
it's
I
possible.
when I first heard about the auction, I asked Mick Eakers what he thought. He says,
Yeah.
Maybe as high as 100,000."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought that was a lot at that moment.
I know. Well, I was thinking, when I interviewed Heritage, I talked about I think Frank's Switchmaster, which is a rare guitar that he then totally modified like crazy. Well, that only sold for like 65,000. So I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be more than that. But I trust Heritage. They pick a price. I'm sure they must know
Yeah,
what they're doing.
but I don't know how they pick that price.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe that's the
I think it's a big part of it is the fact that it's one of one, right? I mean, like, if someone who wants a Switchmaster, there's not a lot of them, but you will find another. There's
right.
only one baby snakes. There's other SGs, but there's not any other SGs with that extra fret and this unique scale length and the cool inlays and the book matching and all that stuff that's going on here. And plus Frank's pedigree and the electronics. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the only chance to get this. So I bet it's going to do really well. I bet it's going to do well. Yeah.
Well, it'll be fun to see. I mean, I don't make anything off of this, people.
Yeah,
So,
that's I know. Well, I think about that. So actually, that's a sort of side question. I mean, as you sold it to Frank for what did we say, 800? So
800.
yeah, so is there a party that goes like, oh man, I wish I was had a bunch of these sitting around in stock somewhere.
No, I wish I could have, had a contract that said if you ever sell this, I get 25%. Right? I mean, don't artists have that now in
Some
their,
yeah, some must. Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like, why should they not make money as this thing becomes collectible and
right.
gets stored in warehouses in Florida that
Yeah,
are
yeah,
technically outside of the United States for tax purposes?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, this is really cool. I'm very excited to see what will happen, and obviously, I hope that you find a good space to make some future guitars, and this gets you a little. Uh, there's some heat on everyone wanting the next Bart Nagel creation.
Well, we'll see if the calls start coming in. I mean, I can be talked into anything.
All right, well, that's the spirit. That's the spirit. This is great. I hope that we can continue our conversation and new friendship offline as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
All
I'll keep
right.
watching your channel and I'll get one of those boxes from you one of these days.
Oh, yeah.
The Ruthie.
The Ruthie, that's right. Oh, I got one somewhere.
It's
Is there?
product placement time.
Yeah, yes, the Ruthie. Well, I gotta get it in focus somewhere. Hold on. Oh, of course, it's never in focus. Look at that.
Uh,
Oh my goodness. There we go.
there it is.
Go. That's right. The
Looks
Ruthie.
good.
My fuzz preamp. They're all painted different. Yes.
So
Get
is the
one today.
circuitry, I have questions for you.
Yeah.
Um, are you building that circuitry yourself? Are you
Yes.
putting
So
parts together?
yeah. So I won't be afraid to plug my own stuff.
No, no,
Um,
please.
Anyways, yeah. So the circuit board in here, it's all surface mount, minus the few through-hole components. But I designed the schematic myself. Let's see how to hold it straight here. And then I worked with an electrical engineer who does audio stuff in particular, along all sorts of like top secret government things. And because I really wanted to make sure that what I was making and putting out on the market was like I felt like I knew I was like really solid that I could be comfortable in. So hired him. He was incredibly helpful and amazing, and he converted that schematic into the PCB layout to optimize it for noise and all sorts of
Oh, wow.
concerns, grounding, and all these real high end things that I wanted to make sure it was like top notch. And one of the two big things I really learned in that process was I learned a ton about power filtering to really make sure that the DC power was really smooth and clean and not adding noise to the circuit. And that was made a huge difference to the quality from my original prototypes, to lower noise because I wanted it to be a very low noise circuit. And then he also encouraged me to go from what had been through hole, large resistors, that type of stuff, to going to surface mount, which I was very scared of at first. But he was like, no, just you gotta trust me on this. And I did a lot of research on that and a lot of additional prototyping and testing, but it made the circuit a lot quieter.
Huh.
It's way more. Actually, assembly's really easy. I stencil I have a solder stencil, and I have little tiny tweezers, and I get all my pieces, and then hot air, and so my solder station's over onto the side here, and yeah, everything solders in and sucks in, and it comes together really tightly. And there's test points, so I can make sure all the bias voltages are correct and everything is grounding correctly. So it's really top notch, like PCB layout, but then I do all the assembly and obviously I paint all the cases and
Right.
do all that. So it's been a really exciting project for me and since because I started this as an early like prototype several years ago, and it's been evolving for a long time. And then when I decided I wanted to try to bring it as a product to sell, I was like, I want to make sure it's legit. So that's why I hired this guy, and I didn't I he made no money basically like what his normal rate should be. He was so generous with his time, and because I asked him nonstop questions, and he was so amazing and generous. But yeah, so huge huge thanks to Ed for that project, for his help on that project. But yeah, now I can order parts and I can put it all together, and it goes out to you at home.
So it looks like so the circuitry looks like it's small enough to actually fit in a guitar, right?
Yeah, it could certainly absolutely be repurposed into a smaller PCB that you can install into a guitar if you wanted. Yeah. Like, and that was actually something I debated for a while. Like, oh, would I want to make a version of this that, has that installs under your pick guard or in a back cavity or something? Because yeah, it could absolutely fit in there without
Right.
a doubt. Yeah. So
Cool.
if you have any ideas, you let me know.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking. I mean, there's so much of a trend now of like putting cavities in a guitar body to make it lighter weight and stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah.
there's I feel like in my time it's like you wanted a Les Paul because of the sustain, right? So you've
Right.
got a maple top on a mahogany bass, and that gives you a lot of sustain. And so when I was using the Pau Ferro for guitars, it's because I want to get this sustain. But I think
Right.
you can get more sustain electronically now.
Right.
And
And I think in Bubba Steaks, is that got well, do you have a Fishman pickup in there? What's in there?
yeah, I've got
Right.
a pair of Fishman pickups in there, and there's a built-in USB-C charger,
Right.
so you don't have to replace batteries. Just plug it in, and
Right. Yeah, yeah.
cord is
Yeah.
included.
All right. Right. So there you go, everyone. Get your bid in now. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting how that world of guitar making has changed in that sense. Like, you know, uh people wanted a Les Paul that wasn't chambered in any way or no weight relief because, and now
Right,
there's a lot of active discussion about that online and what, you know, does wood matter on electrics, and is it just the pickups, and do your string gauges matter? I mean, that's
right,
a thing people love to argue about, but I think at the end of the day, it's can you play, right? It's
right.
like, you know, um, I think that's a big part of it. I'm sure that any guitar you'd handed Hendrix would have sounded like a great guitar. You know what I
Right,
mean? So,
exactly.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think of like if you're the guitar player for Paul McCartney's band and he's doing 3-hour shows
yeah.
night after night, you don't want a Les Paul, do you?
No, you want. I mean, I think Baby Snakes is very light. I mean, in terms
Oh
of
yeah.
a
I was
guitar. So
kind of blown away by after seeing it after all these years, I was like picking it up and like, oh my God, this is lighter than my memory allowed me to
Right.
conceive,
It's incredibly light. Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
and that, and I'll put the weight on screen because I don't want to get it wrong out loud. But um, yeah, that's something that I think about a lot is that, Frank would often talk about how he didn't, he would take his guitar on and off during the show a lot of times in the
Right.
later years, and um, so it being the lightness of that guitar, I think was probably a big attractive feature for him.
Yeah.
I think I'll do an official goodbye for the video, and tell everyone, please go make your account with Heritage and go put your bids in now because this may be your last chance to end up with one of these very interesting and amazing guitars.
Or a fine photograph.
Yes, or that's right. Even more so, bid on those photographs.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm gonna wave. There we go. All right. So Bart, that's our official ending. But if there's anything else you want to talk about or anything I missed, please, we can always continue.
No, that was good. I think you do, a really thorough job. You obviously do your research,
Well, I
and
try.
yeah, no, it's good. How do you do this and have a full-time job and a family besides?
I don't. It's a lot of filling every tiny moment with like chipping away at